From a peer review point of view, I think one of the most important things to be looking out for is do you feel that the scientific findings in a paper are robust? Have they been done properly? Do they have enough sample numbers in there? Would you be able to do it yourself if you tried it again? These are the important things when you're trying to assess a paper. It's not so much about the novelty. Of course, the novelty is really important and you want to be excited by the science, but the fundamental thing that's important is it done properly and is it repeatable? Could somebody do it again?
I think a very important skill is that you need to have a detailed knowledge of the research area that you are in, and then review the paper in a very thorough and unbiased manner, looking in detail at the methodology involved and the results that are being generated.
Well, as a peer reviewer, it's good to be constructive, and I think that's very important to keep in mind. You don't need to break down the importance of the paper or you need to give advice to the authors. What can they do to make it even better, and what can they do to make it clearer what they want to show and what they want to investigate, and what are the elements that make it maybe a little bit unclear, that the readers do not understand the flow of the paper and why they were doing that study and how they did it and what are the results. So I think as a reviewer it's good to read the paper in a critical way, but then translate your critique into a constructive comments to the review and say, if you do this and maybe do that, then it will be much better. Maybe the results are better to understand, but also the writing of the paper can be more clear to really bring over the message that you want to bring over as an author. So I think for reviewers, that's definitely the most important thing to do, to be constructive.
We really value our peer reviewers. Their contribution is very important to the journal. So I would say only accept if you have time and you're interested in the topic. It's really important to read the paper and think about it in its context, and to try to give constructive feedback, even if you're rejecting a paper, remembering the hours of work that have gone in often to the production of these papers. I would always try to give a constructive view, even if you think the paper is really not publishable, is just to try to give guidance for improvement.
Most important skill is skepticism. It's incumbent on the authors to explain and tell you the story and tell you what's going on. It's incumbent as the reviewer to be there and put yourself in the mind of the reader. If you put yourself in the mind of the reader, you can ask the questions, am I convinced by this? Because if you're not convinced by this, then maybe the reader won't be either.
Okay, so there's a few really important things, but I think the first thing is obviously to pay a great deal of attention, because you're performing a very important role. So read carefully, and if you don't understand what's in the paper, try hard to understand it. Sometimes if you don't understand what's in the paper, it's because it's not a very good paper. And so you should always bear that in mind. But also, I think if you consider your role as to try and make the paper better rather than to be critical, it probably helps how you phrase things, because as an author yourself, you've received reviews, you know they're always going to hurt. And you don't really want to hurt anybody else more than you have to, even if their paper's not really good. So think of yourself as trying to do the best you can to help authors improve what they've done.
I have had limited experience of peer reviewing, but in the maybe 5 or 10 papers that I have peer reviewed, I've found that trying to put myself in the shoes of the writers, but also the readers simultaneously, is how I picture the role. That what I'm trying to do is to see the best possibility of what this paper could be. So to think, if this was given care and attention to be the most valuable contribution it could be, what would need to happen. And sometimes that's improvement in language or in terms of data visualization, or just things that might be obvious to the writers but aren't obvious to me as a reader. So I'm sort of doing that when I'm thinking about the readers and how they'll benefit, but I'm also trying to think, someone's put a lot of care and effort into this already, and so how I convey back my review, I want to be as supportive and as I guess just helpful, genuinely helpful as possible, rather than kind of getting into a bit of a grumpy or stern tone. So I think, yeah, trying to find the right tone in that is something I'm working on, and I hope I'll continue to learn.
When you serve as a peer reviewer, you really should realize that you're reviewing someone else's paper. And sometimes you are tempted to really look for the answers of your own research questions, but you're not looking for that. So try not to give comments that actually focus on the fact that they didn't answer your research question. You should focus on really their research question. So your review comments should really be directed to their paper and not too much to your own interests.